Hey, Michael with XForcePC. For a while now, we've been using these 49 ultra-wide monitors that are 3840 by 1080. Sorry for the loud truck. And the reason we really like this monitor is because it gives you a fairly wide field of view, but it only requires one monitor connection, and that allows you to have additional monitors, like if you want to run Air Manager on an auxiliary display, or you want to run the real sim gear G1000 suite, or 430, 530, whatever. It only takes up one monitor to connection to display what you see right here. But a number of people have asked, well, what if you had two of them? And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that would look like. And then I asked myself, well, what if I had three of them? So let's find out how that works. So first of all, here's a view of what you get with the 49 super ultra wide. I've got it set to around 90 degrees of lateral view. Normally you get about 60 degrees of lateral view in a traditional 1080p, 16 by 9 monitor. But I've got it again set to about 90 degrees, so an additional 30 degrees. But let's see what happens if we hook a second one up. Okay, I'm back, even though I am not really in the shot that well. So now I've hooked up two 49s, and what I've done is I've set each of them to 60 degrees of lateral view. So we're getting about 120 degrees of lateral view, which makes sense. By the way, I did the math, and if you put these in a perfect circle, it would take 9 of these 49 inchers to make a 360 degree circle, or it'd take approximately 4 to give you a true 180 degrees. What you would actually do is probably cock them in just a little bit and tighten that circle up because the curvature of the monitor is not sharp enough to where you would really follow the curvature. So you cheat a little bit and kind of, where the monitors come together, you sort of bring that in a little bit more than the actual curve. As you can see, we can't really see much of our instrument panel here when we're in our normal flying position. If we leave it like that, obviously we can't see much out of through the windscreen, so you'd probably bring it down like that. And in this case, it looks like you'd really need another monitor here running Air Manager because the vertical field of view is so compressed. So that's kind of my initial thoughts on that. Yeah. And so I'm going to look into now and see if there's some way I can get further away. It feels like I want to hit the minus key to get back further, but we're zoomed all the way out. We can't go back any further. Okay, so I played around a little bit and found one setting that lets you move the view backwards a bit. So this is our normal view. Like if you hit W, this is where the simulator thinks your head should be. I would probably hit the up arrow a bit and do something like that, run my instruments on another display, but then if you hit the comma will back you away from the instrument panel some, which seems like a good idea until you get behind the headrest. So you can only go back so far until you get behind the headrest. So that's about as far back as you can go. And see, if I drop myself down too low, then I'm behind the seat back. So that's about as good as you can do. And then of course you can adjust your view downward. Our frame rate right now, we're on a really high-end machine here. This is an i7 9700K and a RTX 2080 Super. We are located in Seattle, which is the default X-plane airport. And so we're getting about 38 frames per second, something like that. So, yeah. I don't know that this is the best way to simulate X-plane. I keep getting behind the seat back. Let me reset myself. So that's probably what you would do, and then back yourself up a little bit. Let's look at the Cessna 172. I hope I'm not boring everybody to tears here because I'm kind of figuring this out as we go along. So now we're in the Cessna 172. I'm just looking down and looking back up. And so I'm gonna hit W again and I'm gonna back myself away. Probably gonna wind up behind the headrest again, yeah. So I'm gonna go back in some. Go down a little bit, up a little bit. Yeah, so I mean, that's not too bad right there. We can pretty much see out of the right window over here, we can see under the wing. On the left side, we're kind of limited as to what we can see. Getting about the same frame rate we were getting. Rendering options are probably, I would call, in the middle. In our graphics, we're on maximum texture quality, middle on the anti-aliasing, and middle on the number of world objects. So let's hook up a third display and see what happens. Hey, Michael with XForcePC. I'm back now, and as you can see, the camera is now really far away because it's really hard to get all these monitors in the shot. Let me grab my tape measure. From tip to tip, we're talking 8.5 feet. 8.5 feet across for this setup. I've got 60 degrees of lateral view on each of these screens. So for a total of 180. I got them arranged in such a way that if you sit in front of this monitor, look to your left, look to your right, you're really getting 180 degrees. We're on a 10 nautical mile approach to Seattle, Tacoma, which is on standard X-plane scenery. And we're getting about 42 frames per second. I will unpause it here. We're getting 39, 38. And you can see some of the city down there. And of course, we expect to see great improvements in frame rate one day whenever Vulcan comes. Don't even ask me when that's going to be. I really don't know. I think it's a ways off. We're in the Cessna 172. The default view puts you like that. Okay? But I've taken and used the comma key to back myself away. Again, that's the comma key. Comma and period take you in and out. It kind of basically moves your position in the seat. And this is actually pretty good. I'm running, as I said, a 9700K at 4.9 gigahertz, so a super fast processor. I'm running a RTX 2080 Super graphics card. And let's see what we're doing on our task manager here. Hopefully I'm not boring you. These are the types of things I care about. We're using 7 gigs of memory. We're using, according to this, 36% of the processor. Now a lot of that is because, as you can probably see, one core is completely maxed out. And then the other ones are just kind of doing a little bit of work. So that affects, the overall CPU utilization is based on all the cores, but really we're limited by this one core here in the middle. My graphics card is utilized at 80%, and I've zoomed in a bit. I don't know if you can see that or not, but my graphics card's around 80 or 90% utilized. So my bottleneck is processor here, but we're close to bottlenecking on the graphics card when you consider that I'm hitting it anywhere between 70 and 90%. But the ultimate, reason for any, frame rate loss is CPU right now. I'm going to turn VSync back on. I had it turned off so I could see the true frame rate. I don't know if you can see my graphics settings here, but they're what I would call medium high. We got 2x SSAA plus FXAA on our anti-aliasing. If we put a 2080 Ti in here, we could bump that up a couple of notches without affecting the frame rate. We're using 4 gigs of video memory. We have 8 gigs on the card. We have our objects set to medium and texture quality set to maximum, but that's not an issue because we're not using up all of our texture memory. So this is doable on a really fast machine. Now let's take a look at another plane. I know you're probably interested, so let me zoom back out here and we'll take a look at another plane. Sorry, I don't have a cameraman today, so I'm my own cameraman. It's the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, so Austin is in Bermuda the last time I talked to him. Hopefully he doesn't mind me saying that. So anyway, I just opened up the Baron. So this is how it would position you normally. I would not fly like this. I would use the comma key to back myself out as far as possible without getting behind the headrest. Probably move my instrument panel like that, fly like this, and then either use another display with my instruments on it with Air Manager running, or glance down at my instruments using my hat switch and glance back up. And of course, if you're using the 430 or the 530, you can always bring those up into a little box here and place them wherever you want. You can drag them all the way over to the side, out of the way if you want. So any of the GPSs you could do that with if you want to see those, but you don't necessarily need to see your steam gauges all the time, but you do want to be able to see your GPS. And if you had a fourth display, a little display down here, you could always put your GPS on that. Let's try one more plane, just in case you wanted to see one more, what it looks like on here. The Aerobasque Robin. Let's do the King Air. I think that Aerobasque Robin might be a little obscure. Okay, so on this one you can see that it's a little difficult to see where we're going. So I'd probably raise myself in the seat a little bit and back myself away a little bit, maybe raise myself a little bit more. And then now you can kind of see what's happening, what's going on. I know I'm in the way of this other monitor. It's impossible for me to get out of the shot because of the the size of this thing being 8 feet across. Also, this monitor is a Samsung on my left. These two are Viotech, so if you're seeing a slight difference in color, I'm not noticing any here, but if you do know that that one is a little bit different. And we've just kind of got these things sitting up on stands to, as a temporary kind of setup. And if I want to get rid of this GPS, I just go and click on it and it gets it out of my way. Right now we're getting 30 frames per second, but that's because we're using V-Sync, synchronizing our frame rate to the refresh rate of the screens. It's actually 1/2 the refresh rate. So our true frame rate is, without V-Sync on, is about 40, anywhere from 34 to 40 frames per second in this particular scenario. Again, I'm running stock X-Plane here, no add-ons, no special scenery or anything like that. And you saw my rendering options earlier. So 2 of these is kind of cool. 3 of these is really cool. I think once we see Vulcan, which God only knows when that is, I don't know when that's going to be. I'd like to think the performance gains we'll get with Vulcan will make this setup even more realistic. You can see it's very usable right now. The biggest hurdle here is finding something to put this on. So I have a 6-foot table here, and then I rolled in another table over here to my left just to have this third monitor have something to sit on. Probably what I would do is use 3 rolling monitor stands, or excuse me, TV stands, like we use in our supersize Ultimate system if you were going to do this. Now, quite truthfully, probably 3 televisions is a little bit better way to go, because as you notice on here, our vertical field of view is very compressed, and using a taller monitor is still probably the better way to go. But this video, the purpose of it was simply to answer, hey, what do 2 of those things look like? Hey, what do 3 of those things look like? And so I feel like we've done that here today. Hopefully that helps you understand what multiples of these 49s would look like, and why in some ways they're good and in other ways maybe they're not the best thing to do.